Happy holidays.
Why do I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Deanne Tate,
And Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
and what do we do about it?
Hello.
Happy holiday. Happy holiday.
Happy Festivus.
Happy who? What are
Happy
we talking about?
Festivus. That's what
Tell
we're going to
me
be
what
talking
Festivus
about
is.
today. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it is. The holidays are upon us. They have arrived much, whether we wanted them to or not, they showed up. So
It's the cycle of life. What happens?
they do. Yeah.
Every
They do
year
that
we
every
get this
year.
holiday.
Every year they show up. And so today is Festivus Day.
I
So
don't
we
know
were
anything about Festivus, so
I know. I don't know much about it either. So we're going to talk about it today and kind of get in the know with that kind of thing. Do it yeah, that's the question of the day. Do we care about Festivus?
do we care about Festivus?
Do we
Let's
care?
find out. I'm curious to know if I care about Festivus.
Well, Festivus lands on December 23rd, which is today. And in my research, I found that it was apparently a made-up holiday that was celebrated in the household of head writer for the show Seinfeld, Dan O'Keefe. He was also he played Seinfeld's dad in the show.
I don't know
And
Seinfeld too well.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. So I struggled with wanting to talk about this. Actually, I was sharing with you a little bit that because I am not. I used to watch it when it was on, not like super religious, not like some people that, know all the words to the show and all of
Tell
that,
me
but I
about the
did watch.
premise. Can you tell me about the premise of Seinfeld? I feel like I have a connection to Seinfeld because one of my really good friends that I went to Columbia with went to school with Seinfeld.
Probably. That sounds about
Yes.
right.
And there was like some little tea that Seinfeld started dating some woman that was like very, very, very young. So
Hmm.
like though they were our age, there was this like, and I like dating younger people too. So like, no judgment. But back then it was a big issue that Seinfeld really liked to date very, very young people. But I never watched the show, so I don't know very much about what is the premise or anything like that.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the woman that ended up being his wife, that he started seeing her before she was 18. And
Yeah,
he
that is
was
okay. So the tea is real.
and he was in his 20s. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
he was grown and she was not, but by age standards. But it is what it is.
So a little Cinderella story. They ended up getting married.
they
Mhm.
did. I
Mhm.
don't think they're together anymore though. I feel like maybe that marriage ended and he's with somebody else, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know everything about him.
Mhm.
But the show was I'm going to use the term loosely groundbreaking because it was essentially a show about nothing.
Mm.
So it was one of those ensemble cast shows
Okay.
where you had best friends that were living in close proximity to each other, kind of like a Friends show, but a more deeply Jewish / New York version of, because Friends was set in New York as well, and
Oh,
David
was it?
Schwimmer, yeah, and David Schwimmer was Jewish, and Monica, his sister was Jewish, but they didn't do a lot. Friends, I don't remember Friends doing a lot. Again, another show that I was on the periphery of watching. I didn't watch it religiously like some people do. My younger sister's one of those people. But they didn't, I don't think they dealt with Judaism and with that
Okay.
element in their relationships as much as Seinfeld
Oh,
does.
so Seinfeld actually discusses and talks about Judaism
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
and because Jerry is Jewish, and I believe his friend is, and then Jerry's parents are part of the show, and they're of course
Hmm.
very, very Jewish. What I've been learning though, and as part of Festivus, I looked it up, so I wanted to get like a definition of what it was. So if you're hearing about Festivus for the first time, this is the definition that that AI has given us. So Festivus is a secular holiday, so it's not necessarily based in any kind of religious theory, celebrated on December 23rd as an alternative to the perceived pressures and commercialism of the Christmas season. So I thought that was interesting because you and I have talked about the capitalism, the celebration of capitalism in this holiday time, and whether or not we were going to try to avoid that. And so I thought that was an interesting definition of what Festivus would be. And there are rules apparently for Festivus. So again, in our
Tell me the rules in our holiday celebrations.
In our Googles, some of the rules that came up was they involve an unadorned aluminum pole. So I guess that's an alternative to a Christmas tree or a Hanukkah bush, as I've heard some folks bring that element of a tree into the Hanukkah celebrations. A dinner, usually meatloaf, apparently. The airing of grievances or complaining about others. Feats of strength, which I guess in Dan O'Keefe's household was wrestling the head of the household until pinned. And Festivus miracles, finding small, insignificant miracles that happen during the day. So that was my
lovely. Insignificant miracles are lovely.
Yeah, I like the miracles part. I like the miracles part. I have to say, that when I saw the airing of grievances, of course, my brain first went to how white people love to have grievance. White grievance is a thing, and we're all living under that in such heavy order these days. Always have been. Members of our society have been living under it for hundreds of years. But white people are now living under it, and so we're more aware of it. And so when I was thinking about the airing of grievances, one of the first things that came up for me was feeling some sort of way about even talking about this, because Jerry Seinfeld has revealed himself to be, and maybe always had revealed himself to be, but I didn't see it, as being a very deep Zionist, very much in favor of Israel, very much in favor of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, to the point of basically saying they all deserve to die, so just have at it. And I'm paraphrasing. So I struggled with wanting to talk about this, actually, because I didn't want to give it any kind of, I didn't want to whitewash the Zionism that is embedded in these people that created this holiday for today. So I just wanted to put that out there, full disclosure. We understand where this comes from. We understand, I'll speak for myself. I understand that Jerry Seinfeld is hugely, hugely, hugely problematic. And I am not suggesting that anybody watch his show anymore. This is not an endorsement of that, but we thought it would be a fun little diversion to talk about how it weaves in to the holidays as we're experiencing now.
So, I'm always going to come curious. And what I'm curious is is how do you relate to a holiday that is created to, it seems to meet a need. And I'm bringing this in because as we're starting to talk about this, and as you were explaining like the different elements of the, and I'm going to put air quotes up, of this holiday, because it seems like my initial responsiveness to it is that a holiday to celebrate your grievances is something that's inaccessible to me, because I don't see where or why there would be a celebration of the things that you have grievances about. So like when I heard about the small miracles, I just don't intellectually, theoretically, understand why we're celebrating our grievances. That's just strange. And then I think about other holidays, and Kwanzaa in particular, that was created to actually meet a need of a demographic of people in the United States with completely and totally different elements. And I would love to go through that, since now we're talking about these kind of alternative, non-faith-based holidays that are celebrated towards the end of the year as alternatives to what we've already named as a capitalistic holiday, which is a secular holiday in Christmas, though it was initially started as a faith-based Christianity held type of celebration. So all of these elements have come into my mind as you brought up a Festivus, and we're talking about celebrating grievances, thinking about Christmas, which is a kind of a universally known, and in that holiday celebrating Christ, but it's kind of moved so far from that,
Oh
in my
yeah.
opinion. And so it's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of hard to think about what Christmas is. And then also thinking about another alternative, secular, but spiritually based holiday that is created during the same time. So it's a really interesting conversation. But going back to what is your relationship to having uncovered this celebration of grievances?
My relationship to it, that's an interesting question. So I'm not quite sure how to answer it. So in terms of airing grievances, I'm very aware at how the difference, the difference in the circumstances of me being able to air grievances versus you being able to air grievances. And I'm also very aware of how white people never miss an opportunity, often, whiteness, let me say that, never misses an opportunity to air grievances, no matter who's listening. I was watching another Karen caught on camera video the other day of a woman that was just going nuts over something stupid. And so my first inclination is to not want to air grievances unless it's about Zionism. That's my top grievance right now. Yeah, if we're airing grievances, then I want to talk about, that's my top grievance in the world today and anywhere
Zionism
today.
and like that we're airing grievances.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I should be airing grievances. I don't feel like I should be. I mean, I got grievances, but I don't feel like I have the right to air them because in this world where whiteness rules the space, I it's always available to me to air grievances, and so I try to be really mindful to not do so. I guess.
Yeah. And that is what I find fascinating. Thank you for saying that out loud, is that this holiday comes from such a place of privilege
Yeah.
where you want to designate an opportunity for you to celebrate all of the things that you want to be in grievance. And I'm curious as to what the purposefulness of it is. Like, what are the outcomes? Is
Right.
it a form of healing to be able to say, I'm not, and this is how I receive the holiday, is like a spoiled little
Yeah.
child who's having a tantrum. Like Festivus for me sounds like an opportunity to celebrate and be in the rightfulness of having a tantrum, which I don't understand what the point of being a parent. I don't understand what the point of the tantrums are. Sometimes we need to find ways to express ourselves. And so the restorative healing side of me is like, okay, break a glass, beat a wall, write a piece of poetry, make some music, or that kind of stuff to get the emotions that you are having hard times working through out. I understand that. Airing grievances as a celebration, again, I'm just going to say, is so inaccessible to me. It just,
Yeah.
I don't see what the purposefulness of, and maybe it is also because I come from marginalized community where when we are communicating our grievances, they're not heard very often. Okay. And so now having a reflective thought about that, would there then be a benefit for folks from marginalized communities to have this opportunity for their grievances to be heard? But then what are you going to do with it? Like after you've aired your grievance, I'm not going to say I'm ever going to celebrate any type of thing that I'm grieving about. There's not a celebration around something that I'm grieving about at all. It literally doesn't make sense to me. And then wanting to have some type of a resolution, if I'm airing my grievances, that I know that it's going to be heard and my needs are going to be met. I think that would be something more of a celebration and have a purposefulness and intention of deciding to create a holiday off of.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
for that.
I think it's
for that.
I mean, I think it's uniquely white to create a celebration for airing grievances. And there are going to be folks that are listening or watching that are going to say, well, they're Jewish, so they're not white. And that's a whole nother conversation. Because
I qualify people of Jewish faith to be people of Jewish faith, and then identifying that the original Jewish people came out of Africa. Well, all the people came out of Africa. I'm
Right.
always
They all
say
came
that.
out of
But like the
Africa.
original like creation and development of the faith base is a very African thing, and
Right.
people like make the disconnection that people of
Right.
Jewish faith, which is why I name it that way, are Jewish because they're not.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
but also too, I mean, I think of, when I have conversations with people who want to say, well, I'm Jewish, I'm not white. If they present
As
where they
whites.
look like me,
Mhm.
to me, when you walk into a room, if when people see you, they ascribe to you the whiteness privilege that comes with the way your hue presents to their eyeballs, then you are benefiting and experiencing the benefits of whiteness. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter to me what your background is, whether you're, and I know I feel like, my opinion, that that has been a thing for especially Zionist Jews who want to separate themselves from any privilege, because being a perpetual victim is part of that narrative,
Mm.
and part of the Zionist narrative. This is not, please understand, this is a difference between Judaism and Zionism. So the part of the Zionist narrative is perpetual victimhood. And it's very difficult to say I'm white and I benefit from white privilege while also being a victim. And so to me, when I've had interactions with people who identify as Jewish and who present like me visually, and who want to say, well, no, I'm Jewish, so I'm just as oppressed as someone who looks like you, I, I it hasn't always gone that great, because there's been pushback. I've pushed back on that and said, if you walk into a room and nobody knows what your name is and nobody knows what your ethnicity is, and they see that face, you're going to be ascribed white privilege.
Mhm.
And it's often really challenging for them to hold that perpetual victimhood mindset and say, yes, I have white privilege at the same time. So
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the yes that I am offering in this moment is having had the experience of sitting with people who sit in the intersections of their whiteness,
mhm,
white presentingness, and their faith base. And what I understand, and coming from a place of marginalized community where the intersections of oppression that I experience come from many places,
mhm,
I do have an understanding of being in an identity that you don't wear on your shoulder,
mm,
but you get to sit in the knowledge of the oppression that exists because of your community or your belief system.
okay.
So I liken it in onto being female bodied and being able to sit amongst boys who feel comfortable being in the boys club with you around for whatever
Mm,
reason. And I cannot hide that I'm not, I mean, I can like do a whole bunch of things to try to not look like I'm female bodied, but I pretty much present as a high femme. It's what I'm gonna say.
you
So,
gorgeous.
so sitting in a space, and I've gotten the privilege of being able to do that, and especially culturally being in Jamaica now, right? In the
Mhm,
space where
mhm.
surrounded by a whole bunch of men who have a whole lot to say, and culturally, women don't contribute to those conversations. So like you
Mm,
literally just being able to hear how they're talking about things. And I liken that into a person of Jewish faith's positionality, where you can sit amongst those who have a different level of privilege than you do and hear how they really think about you
mm,
in
mhm,
the way that you embody your existence.
mhm,
And the level of harm that comes from that. I've heard experiences from people of Jewish faith who will be working in a job and be perfectly okay until people find out that they're Jewish, and
mhm.
then the treatment becomes
Changes.
completely different.
Yeah.
Very isolationist, very nitpicky, like the little mosquito bites, that
Mhm,
always comes out, like just like underlying things. Oh,
mhm.
but you mustn't do that because you're Jewish. Othering, a ton of othering that occurs.
Yeah, yeah.
And no matter what intersection you come in, that is harmful in the completion of our humanity as us working together as an ecosystem. So I do understand oppression has its different impacts. It's all impactful. And I think there's a benefit when we are in consideration of where the different oppressions are and how they come out of capitalism and this hierarchical supremacy that we exist under. And people who get to experience the intersection of white privilege and being of Jewish faced oppression, I offer the suggestion that those people come into that presence learning how to negotiate that intersectionality in the same way that somebody who doesn't have the opportunity, not in the same way, with the consideration that oppression that you cannot hide behind, like being a female-bodied human being or being a non-white colored skinned human being, is a difference.
I agree. And
get to
yeah.
place of understanding. So I guess that would be my grievance if I'm participating in Festivus today. My grievance is that acknowledging and recognizing that there are impacts of oppression that occur for people who are white presenting, and recognizing that you still get to be in the benefit, especially in the US, of your white presentingness before you have to deal with your oppression. Whereas somebody who cannot hide their oppression has to deal with that before they have to deal with the other intersections of who they are.
Absolutely. And there's no ability to hide. There's no, I mean, I remember when I was living in Charleston, you just reminded me of an experience that I had. I was living in Charleston, South Carolina. And as a white person, every space that I walk into, people would just assume that I believed the way they believed, whatever those beliefs were. And so I would often wear big pins that would have sayings on them that were very counter to what people would expect someone that looked like me to believe. And I was walking through downtown one time and I had "White silence is violence" pin on my shirt. And I had a white man walk past me and call me the C word underneath his breath. He didn't even have the balls to like say it out loud as he was walking past because of that pin. And I remember that I remember reflecting after that was why I wore those pins. I mean, people saw me I always had a pin on. It either said Black Lives Matter or White Silence is Violence. I had a pin that I used to wear that said White Lies Matter, LIES. And let me tell you the amount of times that white people would smile when they saw it. And then I would stand there and I would say, "Read it again." And they would read it again because they were putting a V in it.
Yeah, their
brains, they thought it said "White Lives Matter," and they thought it was cool. And every time I saw that smile, I was like, I invited them. I said, "Read it again," and they would read it again. They go, "Oh."
Oh my, clutch the pearls.
Clutch the pearls. So I intentionally wore those pins everywhere that I went because that was the only way for me to separate myself from that automatic assumption that I believed the same racist bullshit that they believed in, whatever that way that was. Now, did that ever come with any repercussions except for being called the C word under his breath? No, I never felt like I was in danger. I never felt like I was, all the things I had. It was a minuscule opportunity, but it was something I was intentional about to try to, and it was a learning experience for me because it was in that process that I got more clear on how what you were just describing about how a person who presents with a different color skin than white can't hide from that. You as a femme can't necessarily, there are things you could do, but for the most part, you can't stop people knowing that you are a woman and that you present in a certain way. And so, yeah, that was it reminded me of that because that was a little exercise that I did to myself of like, I have to put a pin on my shirt to and then I have to hope people read it. So walking
And make them read it again.
To make them read it again so that they like get the fact that I'm not walking around with a White Lives Matter pin on. And there was a moment where I was like, I can't wear this pin anymore because people think it says White Lives Matter, and I don't want to be ascribed to that mindset. But then I thought, no, that's the challenge, is to.
That is the challenge. And the thing that I heard from
I'm
you,
safe to do that. So I need to, it's even more important that I get out there and I wear that pin. So yeah.
And the thing that I heard from you in that is separating yourself from the narrative, that the assumed narrative, the assumed assumption that people are thinking like you with White Lives Matter and yes, rah, rah, rah. On that, being able, where's my thought going with this? My thought is going is that narrative exists, and that narrative is so real that you have to, when you present in a certain way, to separate yourself. What are the different mechanisms and billboards that you can utilize? And not everybody is comfortable doing that, to be able to inspire a conversation or inspire a different thought process, a different narrative than what's traditionally going on. And that goes back to what we're talking about as far as these holidays. So Festivus does, ask us to have a different consideration about like how it is that we're celebrating. Again, I'm still trying to figure out how to access this. I'm always trying to figure out if people have done something, there is a need that exists that needs to be met, and really trying to understand a person of Jewish faith coming up with a holiday to air their grievances because they might not believe that they have a voice to air those grievances and those grievances be heard. And so, okay, Festivus, hard to access. Let's talk about some of the other holidays that exist. Like, I want to just go from Festivus into Christmas, and just thinking about like the capitalism that has been ascribed at this point to Christmas, because it was a holiday that I understand as it was initiated. Well, I don't even know now at this point if we're having this conversation. But the focus of how I understood Christmas was about celebrating the fact that Jesus died on the cross for our sins and rose again, and it's Jesus's birthday. And so one of the things, I know I said this on our holiday before, one of the things that we do in the morning before we open presents and stuff like that, which I don't do anymore, but one of the things that we used to do is do a toast to Happy Birthday, Jesus, and sing, the Happy Birthday song to Jesus on Christmas. So to pull the faith component of the holiday into the holiday before we go into the consumerism and the capitalism that they've created a narrative that most of us subscribe to, because it's a fun and joyful thing. It's celebrating love and family and forgiveness of sins and a lot of joy. And when people cannot access those things, they go into a real form of depression. And that's some of the impacts of the way capitalism affects our humanity, is the way I want to say. Capitalism affects our humanity. So your thoughts?
And December 25th was not his birthday, and
right.
The date was chosen from a pagan calendar, which I think is hilarious. And then the other piece of it is, what we've been seeing the last 2 years in his birthplace. Jesus was Palestinian. Let's talk
about it. Let us talk about the whole truth and the whole truth.
Jesus was Palestinian, and he was born in Bethlehem, and they've been bombing, Bethlehem. I remember 2 Christmases ago, I went into New York City for a march on Christmas Day, because I just was like, I can't, I need to do something other than, I just didn't even want to celebrate the holiday. And so a friend of mine and I got on the train and we went into New York City to this march. And that's what we did on Christmas Day, while the Israelis were bombing the place of Jesus's birth. And so it is the whole, I have a hard time even conceiving of the religious part of Christmas, because, and you hear this all the time, put Christ back in Christmas, and the reason for the season, and the narrative trying to push people back towards that religious bracket. But it's like, but that's not even, that doesn't even feel like it's based in truth, you know, because of the way we're behaving around where Jesus was born. And Jesus would be on the ground in Palestine going, y'all need to
Yeah.
stop if
Mhm.
he was alive right now. And he
Mhm.
would be deported from this
Absolutely.
country. He would not even be allowed
Absolutely.
to be in the US, you know?
That
And
is
so,
true.
yeah,
That's a whole nother part that we have to
yeah,
kind of have a
he would
conversation about.
absolutely have been deported
Yeah.
already. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you feel me bristling
Uh-huh.
at that, that's where it comes from, because it doesn't feel what I'm drawn to these days around any kind of holiday or any kind of celebration is the authenticity of it.
Mm.
If there's an authentic, rooted, foundational not mindset, spiritual set in any kind of religious celebration, I am there for it, you know. And if it's wrapped in bullshit, I just can't even do
Well,
it. So
bullshit to who? Bullshit to you, because I mean, clearly Festivus is somebody needed to have that holiday as a release. Yeah.
but why? Why do they need to? What kind of grievances could they possibly have that they need to create a whole fucking day just to, you know, I mean,
Talk about
that
it.
I'm sorry, you know, that sounds to me very yeah, I just, yeah, that sounds to me, that sounds equivalent to let's bomb Jesus's birthplace on Jesus's
Mm.
birthday. Hell,
Yeah,
let's do
that's
that.
serious.
Let's
Yeah.
celebrate his day that way. So
Mm.
to me, that's same.
Same,
So
same.
yeah, yeah.
That completely makes sense. Then I want to, on that note, introduce a completely
Yes.
different holiday, which is Kwanzaa. And it's
Hmm.
not religious based at all. It's a cultural holiday that was created to meet a need in the United States, particularly for the African American population. I really enjoy Kwanzaa. I enjoy Kwanzaa because it brings in so many elements of,
Mm,
it doesn't bring in grievances, but it brings in so many elements of building and creating community that I
I
think is
do
special
love
and
that.
important, especially for people who have been marginalized in the US because of the racial hierarchies.
Yeah, yeah.
But in Kwanzaa, we celebrate that from the 26th to through the first of the new year.
Hmm.
There are elements of Judaism in there because we do have a candle holder. We do
Mm,
have 7 principles that go through those 7 days that we focus on. And the 7 principles are called the Nguzu Saba. And it really is a celebration of a harvesting and a bringing together of community. I can go
mm,
through the 7 principles and I'll do it quickly. I don't want to go through like a whole thing, but basically, Umoja celebrates the unity of people. And then there's Kuji Chagulia, which is self-determination. And it's like encouraging
mm,
people to like name the creation, speaking of oneself. You have Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. And so highlighting the importance of building and maintaining community together. You have Ujima, which is cooperative economics, which we know is really important. We asked everyone this year to make sure that you didn't participate in the Black Friday and
hmm.
Cyber Monday and all of those things, so that we are making sure that our economic resources stay in our communities. Nia is purpose. What is the purposefulness for which you exist on this earth and how you're giving back into your community.
Mm,
Kuumba is creativity, encouraging all of the creativity that comes out of being cultured in the US, being Black cultured in the US, and how your positionality within humanity is as far as your creativity. And then, of course, we end on Imani, faith, and that's having belief in one's people, one's ancestors, and one's culture. And so it's a
mm,
beautiful ceremony. We have a makeka, we have candles. I have the stuff that's close around that's going to be put out soon, but you lay it out on the table, and each day you go and you honor the day that corresponds with the Nguzu Saba, using our Swahili language, and
yes.
um, and pulling in all the cultural elements that make us who we are, and that's what the celebration is. And so it's completely opposite of grievances, but talking about how it is that you can build community, and it does have the Christmas elements in it, and it does have the Judaism elements in it. So it's a really, I think, a beautiful way to celebrate the holidays and also
Mm.
celebrate going into the new year and manifesting what it is that you want the new year to look like. So
I love that. Thank you for bringing that in. That is a much better note to end on than the airing of grievances.
Community. Let's learn how to be more human with each other as we celebrate these holidays.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the community piece of it too, really. I mean, if we've learned nothing else in the past, especially the past year, but in the past decade, in the past centuries, that community is key. And we know that the powers that be and the narratives that be that want that their top priority is to destroy community. Mm-hmm. And so we have to work that much harder to keep rebuilding. And we're going to talk about that for the new year, reimagining. How do we reimagine this community that the dominant narrative is trying so desperately to dismantle? So
a narrative, I'm not going to call it dominant anymore. I'm just not going to ascribe that to
okay. It love that.
The narrative is shifting. It's changing. It's like recognizing who's trying to maintain their position of power, and they're losing that battle. But
I love that.
The opportunity we solve one problem. We know that these holiday celebrations can be about how we're going to build community going into our future.
I love that. You're right. I need to change that languaging. So I will work on that. And in the meantime, we will see you all after some of these holidays that folks are celebrating in the coming days. And thank you for the conversation. As always, it was fabulous.
I love to have it. All right. Talking soon.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why Do I Give a Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Deanne. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.